As we take a look at April 16th, 1972, the U.S. launched Apollo 16. It was NASA's launched Apollo 16 spacecraft from Cape Canaveral, Florida, in lieu of going to the moon. As we talked was it last week? A few days, I don't know, weeks won't run together, but because it was the mention of the 13th there with the Apollo 13 and the issues they had, but then there were still moon projects, manned moon projects there afterwards, and it was on this date that in 1972, Apollo 16 launched from Cape Canaveral, Florida, on April 16, 1972, headed towards the moon. On this date, April 16th, 2003, Michael Jordan played his last NBA game in the NBA before retiring for good. And that NBA game, he played wearing the Washington Wizards jersey, which at the time was the new team. So Michael Jordan, it was his last day. It was in 2003. That was Michael Jordan's last day in the NBA. Yeah, that's a long time ago. Feels like it, too, as Michael Jordan played his last NBA game, and it was for the Washington Wizards. Down in history as probably the best basketball player the NBA had ever seen. On this date, April 16th, 2007, Walmart reached first place in 2007's year of the Fortune 500. It says Walmart was awarded the first place in sales and company size in this year's Fortune 500 with revenues of $351,139,000,000 in profits of $11,284,000 assets and a stockholder equity of nearly $198,107,900,000 for the year ending 2006, narrowly beating out ExxonMobil to take first place. It was in 2007. And lo and behold, what came thereafter with everything with the economy around that time, the housing bubble. It's amazing the timing of certain things, but it was Walmart that reached first place in 2007 on this date in the top Fortune 500 company. A year later, on April 16th, 2008, the United States Supreme Court upholds death by lethal injection. It says the Supreme Court has rejected a challenge on the use of lethal injections as a means of execution. The Supreme Court rejected the case that was made by 2 death row inmates in the state of Kentucky. They have already sued the state and said that the commonly used combination of 3 chemical injections violated the Constitution's ban on cruel and unusual punishment. The executions nationwide had been on hold September 2006, and Virginia has just said it was lifting its moratorium on it. As that's something a little interesting. So it was the U.S. Supreme Court upholds on this date in 2008 death by lethal injection, although it was taken to the Supreme Court about whether or not that was cruel or unusual punishment, breaking in one of the rights. So moving on just to a year later, in April 16th, 2009, it was President Barack Obama that had unveiled plans for a national rail line. It was President Obama has unveiled his plans for a network of high-speed passenger rail lines. His reasons for supporting this are to reduce traffic congestion, cut dependence on foreign oil, and improve the environment. That was back in 2009. In the same year, on the same date, the U.S. governmental agents will not be prosecuted for torture. It says that President Barack Obama had released 4 top-secret memos that permitted the CIA to torture the al-Qaeda suspects that were holding at Guantanamo Bay in Cuba and other secret detention centers. In an accompanying statement, President Obama has ruled out prosecutions against those that participated in those actions. The memos can provide a look at the techniques that were used by the CIA and the legal basis by which the previous administration had approved. So it was on this date that agents were not prosecuted for doing the torture as permitted by the CIA. 1 year later, as it was April 16th, 2010, as the SEC charges of Goldman Sachs with fraud. It says Goldman Sachs had been accused of defrauding investors by America's financial regulator, the Securities and Exchange Commission, or the SEC, not to be mistaken with the football conference, had alleged that Goldman's had failed to disclose conflicts of interest and charged the investment bank and one of its vice presidents for defrauding investors by mistaking and omitting key facts about a financial product tied to subprime mortgages, which was the bubble that burst to cause one of the biggest recessions in our nation's history. And it was coined or pinned to the beginnings of that with Goldman Sachs and their defraudulent notion of investors and mistaking and omitting key facts about financial products tied to the subprime mortgages back from 2000 and 2008. Craziness. Moving on here to April 16th, 2011, Cuba had marked the Bay of Pigs anniversary. It says Cuba celebrated the 15th anniversary of the Bay of Pigs invasion with a military parade and the gathering of citizens. The anniversary marked Castro and the communists' triumph over the U.S.-backed exile groups who had invaded in an attempt to oust Fidel Castro. The celebration came at the same time as the Cuban Congress was meeting to discuss major reforms. April 16, 2011. And then lastly, it brings us to the controversial stuff. This is in 2014 in a North Dakota state. It was a U.S. federal judge that overturned a law in North Dakota that would ban early abortions in the state as soon as the heartbeat could be detected. The law was thought to be one of the most restrictive anti-abortion laws in the country, and the judge said that it was unconstitutional. Wow. So in 2014, on this date, it was April 16th, that the abortion law in North Dakota was overturned. Federal judge overturned a law in North Dakota that would ban early abortions in the state as soon as the heartbeat could be detected. Incredible. Incredible. As the mention of birthdays, as April 16th, it was Pope Benedict XVI. We mentioned him yesterday in the sense of, but it was Joseph Alois Ratzinger, born on the 16th of April in 1927 in Bavaria, Germany, known as Pope Benedict XVI and the head of the Catholic Church. The 265th and reigning pope was elected on April 19th of 2005 following the death of John Paul II. He is a theologically conservative, supporting traditional Catholic doctrine and fundamental Christian values. He resigned from the papacy, and it was 2013. So only from that time he resigned in 2013. But it was his birthday today, as he was born in 1927. Pope Benedict XVI, also known as Joseph Alois Ratzinger, born in Bavaria, Germany, 1927. We're going to take a short little break, and when we come back, we'll round out this 10 o'clock to the bottom of the hour. That shows it up for On This Day in History. You're listening to 96.3 FM, 1370 AM, and we'll be back right after this.
Cloudy today with a couple of showers and a thunderstorm, high 73 to 85. Tonight a passing shower, otherwise cloudy, low 66. Low clouds tomorrow, followed by some sun with a shower or thunderstorm in spots in the afternoon, high 83 to 87. Saturday cloudy, high 89 to 93. Sunday cloudy, high 91 to 94. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm Brian May.
Hey everybody, join me, Adam Mickulin, for AM Ocala Live on April 22nd at 10 o'clock a.m. with our special guest, Higher Education and speakers, Dr. Jennifer Frines, Associate VP of Career and Professional Programs, and Dr. Rob Wolf, Dean of Business, Technology, and Career and Technical Education, as we tackle the topic of retooling and preparing for the workforce. Again, that's April 22nd at 10 o'clock a.m. right here on 96.3 FM, 1370 a.m., The Source.
The Paycheck Protection Program under the CARES Act provides 100% federally guaranteed loans to small businesses. Available to businesses with fewer than 500 employees. Funds can be used towards payroll costs, rent, utilities, and interest on mortgages. Small businesses are encouraged to get, gather, and go. Get informed by visiting getgathergo.com. There you can gather the needed information and go apply as soon as the SBA program opens with local lenders. For info, visit getgathergo.com to get your business ready to apply.
We are proud to announce the Conservative Watch Hour on WOCA 96.3 FM and 1370 AM every Friday at 11 a.m. Hosted by Annie Marie Delgado, President of Trump Team 2020 Florida, and her co-host Ann Vandersteel with SteelTruth.com. We are serving a higher level of excellence, and we are the only program of this type in this market. Don't miss your weekly dose of conservative talk radio. WOCA 11 a.m. Fridays, 96.3 and 1370 a.m.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
You're listening to AM Ocala Live, WOCA The Source, streaming live, YouTube Live, WOCA The Source Radio. As we're wrapping out, coming up to the bottom of the 10 o'clock hour here, as we just did on this day in history, as we got some other tidbits to go with. This says mobile game downloads are way up. It says quarantine humans are passing the time playing games. The week of March 29th, worldwide, people downloaded over 1.2 billion games, which is about 50% higher than a typically weekly load. A survey of 3,000 gamers found that in the U.S., 70% said that they were spending more time gaming, while 39% were spending more money in lieu of online shopping and everything else to boot, which is definitely why everybody needed a stimulus, too, is to cover the end of what they were doing to keep themselves occupied. This was a wacky but true. It says a loose goat visits a Massachusetts liquor store. It says police in Massachusetts said a goat found wandering outside a liquor store was safely reunited with its owner after getting the call that animal control found the goat curled up behind a UPS drop box, apparently confused and exhausted. Well, that's not something you see every day, and that's something of a pet wanted poster or a reward if found, so to speak, type thing. Interesting. As the goat ended up being okay. It says here, Peacock will proceed with its soft launch today. Comcast will launch an early preview of its new Peacock streaming service. This was yesterday for Wednesday. The service will launch with 15,000 hours of movies and TV shows, from Parks and Recreation to 2.5 Men. Peacock's national rollout is set for July 15th, and Peacock is the NBC-branded Comcast streaming service. Expected is that they're launching that, as they launched that yesterday, with over 15,000 hours of movies and TV shows. Interesting nonetheless. As we move on a little bit, today Apple announces the new iPhone SE. As Apple on Wednesday announced the new iPhone, a lower cost iPhone that starts at only $399. It has the same basic shape and looks exactly like the iPhone 8, which means that it's got a 4.7-inch screen, and it'll be available for pre-order this Friday and will ship on April 24th. So a little cheaper branded model, but still to do everything else as a new iPhone with an updated chip and all that good stuff. So that's coming out for some people to look forward to. This one, as we'll leave, it says... A study shows that in the years since High Times magazine proclaimed April 20 a time to light up and smoke marijuana, traffic fatalities have spiked 12% on that date compared to 1 week before or after. Researchers at the University of British Columbia, Vancouver said while the study could not assess whether marijuana-intoxicated drivers caused the surge in vehicle deaths on the holiday 420, they appear to be most likely the culprits. Interesting. With just a minute to go here, it says one more wacky but true. Man busted for blind driving. In the United Kingdom, a blind man was busted after police spotted his car on the wrong side of the road, which is the right side of the road for Americans, as he was being guided by someone who was in the passenger seat that had lost their license. Hey, man, I don't want to be caught behind the wheel. I have my license expired or suspended. Do you mind driving me? But I'm blind. That's okay. I'll help you steer. Anyway, you're listening to 96.3 FM, 1370 AM. When we come back, we'll have County Commission here to round out the show for the last half hour. AM Ocala Live. I'm your host, Adam Makin. We'll be back right after this. WOCA Ocala, 96.3 FM, 1370 AM. Back after this.
I'm Chris Foster. Another 5.2 million people filed unemployment claims last week. That's 22 million putting in for benefits in the last month. A federal program meant for small business to keep people on the payroll during the coronavirus outbreaks running out of money, and Congress hasn't come together on how to refund it.
Democrats want additional money for